You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your host, Keith Wheeler.
And Nuria Colby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Today, we're going to talk about AI in self-publishing. So this is a bit of a controversial topic, but
yes, it is.
Hopefully we'll let people know what we think. And what do you think about it?
Again, like you said, it's very controversial, and you know there are people on every end of the spectrum about using AI for self-publishing books and other things. I would say personally, I don't see myself ever using AI to generate a book, including, illustrations, although I've seen amazing work it can do. But as far as AI generated, I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I just personally would not do it. I think as long as you're honest about it, especially, and again, I can only speak for KDP. KDP seems to be at the forefront of acknowledging AI as a possible way that people are going to be using to create books. And so they have something in their dashboard where you have to say whether it was AI generated and how much of it was generated, and where you generated it from, and all of those, all the information. That's the only platform that I've seen so far that's asking any of that information. Yeah. And I think for those people who do want to use AI to generate content, the only way I would say that I'm somewhat okay with that is if you're being honest with the platform and you're saying, yes, it was AI generated, how much it was generated, and things like that. In that aspect, at least we can trust that the platform is going to do whatever it will with that information. What I'm assuming they're going to do is they're going to make a field in product description or product details where it denotes that it is AI generated, or maybe they'll even at some point put, a banner on it that makes it more readily visible, because not everybody goes down to that section in the, on the product page. But again, as long as if you're adamant that you're going to use artificial intelligence to create, whether it's your cover, your interior, or whatever, then I say at least make sure that you're honest with the platform that you've done that. So that way the end user, because consumers are going to figure it out anyway, and you'll end up getting negative reviews because as of right now, from what I've seen, AI can't write like a human. It's not varied enough to be able to do that yet. But like I said, customers are going to be able to read that. People who are used to reading things written by human beings are going to be able to see something different, something that's not right. And so if you're honest about it up front, then I think it'll help you with your reviews on the back end.
I totally agree. I think when AI first came out, I could actually tell when something was written by AI, ChatGPT or whatever, because it had a certain tone to it, or a certain way of writing, and it was clever, but I could tell that it was AI. Now I can't. It's really advanced in such a short space of time. It's become so much better. It's hard to distinguish it sometimes, and I'm totally agreeing with you that I don't have anything against AI. I think it's exciting. There are other worries I have with AI, but it's not related to the creative side so much. But I think that I wouldn't write a whole book using AI, or even a blog post or anything like that, because I think that, first of all, as a writer, you like to write, or you enjoy to write. So that creativity is taken away. If somebody else does the job for you, then that, for me, there just wouldn't be any point in doing that. The other thing is, it still makes mistakes. So unless you are an expert in something and then you let AI write an article or whatever, and then you check it and see that it's correct, fair enough. But I'm just worried about all the books that are coming out that are about, I don't know, meditation or mindfulness
Right.
or yoga, or and they're not written by somebody who is actually who's knowledgeable enough in that
Agreed.
subject. And I think that that worries me a little bit, because I think that a person who isn't experienced in something like that shouldn't really bring out a book, because you, as a person that's not experienced in yoga, you can't write a book about yoga, or you know, that's just an example, but you know what I mean.
Right.
It's just a little bit worrying on that side. But do I use AI to help me? Absolutely. I do use it because I think it's really good for structuring articles. It's good to generate ideas. You can talk to it even sometimes and say, you know, I don't, what do you think about this idea? I think there's a problem with so and so. And it actually comes back with really good replies
Right.
sometimes, and gives you another point of view. So I definitely use it, and I definitely think it's really helpful for self-publishers or anybody in the creative industry. But I do worry about, I guess I just worry about people not producing good books. You know, it
Right.
doesn't matter if it's AI or not AI. A book can be good or it can be not very good. And I agree with what you said about Amazon want you to declare if you have created it in any part with AI, whether that it asks specifically whether you have translated it with AI, or whether you know, it asks you about the specific software that you use as well. So to me, I think Amazon are just asking to have some kind of background information to what's actually
Right.
going on. And it's like a data collecting exercise. But Amazon themselves are investing heavily in AI.
Yes.
So I don't think they will ever not accept AI generated material, but it just depends on how you generate it and how much input you have as a human being as well. I think for me, that is really important, because it shouldn't be, it shouldn't even be 50-50 AI. It should
I agree.
be more human than AI, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that I was thinking of as you were talking about AI generated and having the artificial intelligence create the the writing,
Yeah.
one thing that we talk about a lot, especially you, is branding.
Yeah.
And you as a publisher cannot really have a brand, and people get to know your tone. Like, people who read my nonfiction books,
Mhm.
they know what they're going to get. If they've read one of them, they know that the intro is going to start off with me talking about how I can't stand intros, and things like that. And so you're not going to get that same feeling that and things that you've come to and that your customers have come to know and love about you as a writer.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that as of right now from AI. You could even feed it some of your old content, the books that you've done before, and say,
Yeah.
write me a book about this topic in this format, but it's still not going to sound like you,
No.
and your loyal customers, the ones that your business is going to be built on, those are the ones that are going to notice, and they're the ones that you're going to end up losing.
Yeah.
And so I definitely, like, I agree with you. I personally would not use AI to generate the content, but I do use it as an assistant.
Yeah.
And I've used it as an assistant in so many different areas, whether it's to help with, getting over writer's block. You write something and you're just stuck. You could take the last few things that you wrote, put it in there, and see what AI comes up with. Again, having no intention of using that, but using that as inspiration to spark more ideas again, or have it write it in a completely different tone or a completely different
Yeah.
tense. And instead of it being first person, make it third person, and see
Yeah.
how that sounds. And even if you have no intentions of changing, the the format of your book and changing the point of view, it could help you in seeing maybe mistakes that you made, seeing things that you could do better. And again, that's just on ways you can use it just in the writing aspect of it. There's so many other ways, like you were saying about, you can use it for researching, you can use it for outlining your book. I personally use AI to help with my book description.
Mhm.
And you can actually use a completely AI generated book description, because that's not one of the areas that KDP asks for. They don't ask
Yeah.
about that. They ask about the interior, the illustrations, and the translations. That's it.
Yeah.
And so, using AI to come up with a good, not super salesy, but something that gets people to either continue to read or click the buy now button. I mean, I have seen a drastic a change in a positive way on the niches that I've used AI generated for my book descriptions.
Mm. That's exactly the way I think it should be used, for certain things that it should help you rather than do the work for you. And I think part of it is also because we enjoy this work. And like I said
Right.
earlier, if somebody or something else writes it for me, then that's not my creativity in there then. With my books, for example, I like to put personal experiences in my books as well. So
Hmm.
AI doesn't know what my personal experiences are unless I tell it, but it's just not the same as writing it yourself. But
Right.
absolutely, for creating chapters or for creating the structure of a book, I think it's really helpful for that. And then beyond the book, I mean, before I say something else, there is the cover as well. So you could use
Right.
AI to create a cover for you. But again, if I do use that, I would use it in a way that I combine it with other things.
Right.
The problem with images with AI is there are a lot of people that say, "Oh, it's stolen art" or "It's
Hmm.
copied art." And the only thing I can say to that is it's not stolen, it's learning from other artists.
Right.
And that's exactly how we learn to draw as
Right.
well. I can say I'm an artist because I have painted in oil. I still do some painting, and although more on the walls now than like, as an art form. But that's the way I learned. I learned
Right.
by copying other artists and learning about their different styles and learning about, and AI does exactly the same thing. And so I don't see it as a problem about it being stolen art. And I think as an artist, if something is too similar to
Right.
somebody else's work, you recognize it instantly. And I agree that some images that come up with AI, they totally look like AI generated. And
Agreed.
there are ways to not do that. I think there are just so many people using AI and then not really refining their images or not really putting much thought behind it, and they just slap it on a book and that's their cover done. And
Hmm.
that's the wrong thing to do. In actual fact, I would say that when I generate a book cover like that, it takes me more time to generate it with
Right.
AI than it takes me if I did it myself, because
Hmm.
I'm very fussy about the way I create anything really.
Right.
So it's not that somebody can just create an AI cover and put it up there and that's it. It's an art form in itself. And I will argue that anytime you can create, it's like when photography came out. A lot of painters and illustrators said photography would be the death of art, because and it was an easy way to create an image.
Right.
They had the same problem with photography, and now we know that photography is just another media, another art form, and it has its place as well. And I think
Right.
AI is going to be the same. But yeah, I do. The other way I use it is for my social media posts, for example. I ask ChatGPT to give me ideas on what I can post. And I will personalize them. Of course, it will still be something that's personal
Hmm.
to me. But coming up with ideas is hard sometimes.
It is.
Yeah, I just don't know, if I had to come up, I get my daughter to do all of my social media posts, unless I put a few in between. And she's very good at that, but I just haven't got the time to do it myself. And sometimes I need an idea quickly,
Hmm.
and that's where it comes in. And if I had to do it, if I didn't have my daughter to do it and I had to do all my social media, I would probably ask ChatGPT to create a schedule for me and do it that way, because it's
Right.
a lot, I wouldn't say easier, because you still have to put a lot of work into it, but it's more structured. It makes more sense
Exactly.
than when
Yeah.
I do it.
Agreed. Agree. It's less random
Exactly.
than
Yeah.
when we do it. Another thing I
Yeah.
like to use it for is to come up with maybe a catchy title for your book.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe you've got some ideas for a title, and you tell it some of the ideas and what the story's about, and
Yeah.
come up with 10 catchy titles or something
Yeah.
along those lines. But I will tell you that I think the biggest fear that people have with AI in self-publishing actually isn't a problem with AI. It's a people problem. It's a
Yes.
person problem. It's a problem. It's a fear that, and it's rightfully so, because we've seen it in notebooks, and where people that just want to make money quick are just, oh, here's another way that I can just put up a bunch of hot garbage and throw it up in the marketplace and make money. And so, but again, that's not an AI issue. That's a person issue.
Yeah.
And that person that's trying to find the easy way out, try to make money fast. First of all, if you're in this business as a business, you're in it for the long haul. Those people are going to come and go. And I've seen it. I mean, I've been doing this almost a decade now. I've seen it. I've seen it with notebooks. I've seen it with, a lot of other low content, no content books. I've seen it, when KDP came out with short reads. I've seen people, and I've got videos on my channel where I talk about short reads, and where people just knock out, 1 or 2 page things, and, okay, and they just kind of throw it together before AI was publicly available. And again, those people came, made their 2 cents, and that's about it. Because again, the customers can see that,
Mm.
and Amazon is only going to promote the books that are selling and the
Yeah.
ones that customers want.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long when you publish something, maybe you put up 100 of them and none of them are selling. That, I mean, yeah, that kind of buries other books, and that's the sad part about it. And that's why, what we talked about in last week's episode, where we talked about, changes KDP. I want KDP to make.
Yeah.
One of the ones we talked about was, maybe kind of getting rid of the ones that haven't sold in the first 365 days. That would be nice.
Mm.
But the bottom line is whether AI, first of all, AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So it's something that we need to just kind of accept. Um, Whether it really comes down to how much you plan on using it and in what ways. But as far as the biggest fear that AI is going to take over, the industry, that everything is going to be AI generated as far as interior, I don't believe that, because at the end of the day, human beings, we're all social creatures. We, no matter how good AI gets, there's going to be people who are completely fine with reading something that was generated by AI. Just
Yeah.
like just before, even before KDP, or before AI was, public, there are people that are completely fine with reading books that have poor grammar and poor spelling.
Mm.
I'm not one of them. I'm pretty picky with this, with what I read, and it's got to be grammatically and
Mm.
correct and have good spelling. I'm okay with a couple typos, but I've seen books out there,
Yeah.
and there's some niches that it's more common than others. But there are people out there that clearly don't care, and there's going to be people out there that are clearly okay with AI generated content.
Mm.
But for the most of us and most of the industry, I truly believe that people who write, people who are doing it because we enjoy it, that's going to come out in our content, whether it's no content, low content books, whether it's, epic novels or anything in between. I really believe that the customer at the end of the day is going to be able to tell the difference. No matter how good AI gets, there's going to be people that want that kind of
Yeah.
content, and that kind of content will probably be sold for cheap. and then there's going to be people that want our content.
Yeah.
And that's why some people who, try to, you can have AI try to mimic Stephen King, and there's still going to be people who only read Stephen King novels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree. And I think, you can usually tell, but again, it's getting better and better. So
right.
there will come a point when we maybe can't tell. But I totally agree with what you said. It's here to stay. It's not going to go away. I think that, and I understand why some people are worried about it,
Mhm.
because they think their jobs are going to be taken away by
Right.
AI. The thing is, their jobs are not going to be taken away by AI. They're going to be taken away by people who use AI. They're not,
Right.
it's not something where suddenly everything's going to be created by AI and we're just going to be all unemployed and there's nothing to do. There are new industries that are coming out based on AI. So there are new jobs being generated as we speak that use AI. So it can be, you can look at two sides of the coin. It can be an opportunity rather than a problem as well. But like I said, I mean, I do have my worries about AI, like I'm sure we all do. But we also, if we just look at the positives, I think it can be very helpful. There are negatives, but I'm
Right.
just thinking about for us as self-publishers, it can be a really helpful thing because I think if we start, it basically it all boils down to quality. If we start making terrible books, whether they are AI generated or not, and I know there are terrible books out there that are not
Right.
generated with AI. They are just terrible because people haven't put the effort into them.
Right.
They haven't taken care with their books, and there's no difference to me between a terrible book that's been, if anything, it's worse if it's
Right.
human created
Right.
and it's a bad book, because then I think, wow, you really didn't put in any effort into that. You could argue the point that if it's created by AI and it's terrible, well, so the person has just not put any effort into checking it or whatever.
Right.
But it's the same outcome. It's a rubbish book that will not generate any sales, will probably get bad reviews, and whether it's generated with AI or not is neither here nor there really in the end, because the consumer only sees what's in front of them. They don't see how it's been created. They don't see,
Mhm.
when they read any of our books, they don't know how many hours we spent
Right.
writing that book. They don't know what experience we had to go through to be able to write that book. They
Mhm.
just they just get the end product, and for that reason, I don't think that Amazon will ever not accept AI generated books. They will accept well made books or well
Right.
written books, and they will reject rubbish books,
Right.
whether they
I agree.
are AI or human generated. So,
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think what one thing is we have so much more power because we get to choose how much we're going to use AI or don't use it at all.
yeah,
And whatever you choose for your business is completely fine. You could go your entire business and never use AI. Although technically one could argue that spell check and grammar checks are artificial intelligence too.
that's
But um,
absolutely.
but regardless, like and that's fine. It's your business. You can do whatever you want. And I support those people just as much as I support people who want to use AI in a legitimate, positive way where the end customer is benefiting.
Yeah.
If and that's really with any business.
Mhm.
I mean, if you want to, if you're making something and you want to make it completely by hand, there's a place for that, as well as there's a place for people who are making things and they're using equipment.
Yeah.
It's again, it's just it all depends on the quality. And so and the honesty behind it.
Yeah.
Again, KDP, I hope all the other platforms do what KDP is doing and ask that. Unfortunately, at this point, there's really no way to force, to know for sure that people are answering it honestly. But I think that's one thing that's doing is by people answering it honestly, it's allowing the AI on KDP side on Amazon to be able to detect AI being generated from ones that aren't being honest about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to help the industry in probably the not so distant future, because as you said, AI is getting smarter every day.
Every
And
day.
so and as much money as Amazon's putting into their AI, I can only imagine it's going to, continue to get even better faster.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic about the way where this industry is going. I've seen some amazing changes over the last almost decade, and I've seen some negatives too, just like with any industry. But like I said early on, the good thing is the negatives, the positives definitely outweigh the negatives.
Mm.
And those bad actors, as some would call them, that come in, you know, try to work the system, they don't stay long. Either they get kicked off, they get their accounts closed, or they just don't see the results they want and they leave. Either way, the ones that were doing review swaps for a while, and then before that you had the people that were putting links when Kindle Unlimited first started. They were putting the links in at the beginning of the book so that people could jump straight to the end and get the whole thing, get the full page reads.
Yeah.
That's all gone. It's been
Yeah.
fixed. Those people are no longer on the platforms, and so I've seen amazing things from AI and how much it's grown just in the last year or so.
Mm.
And again, I personally don't intend on ever using it to completely generate a book. Not even, and software is different than AI,
Yeah.
just to be clear, because I was going to say not even to generate like a puzzle book or whatever. Software is different, but yeah, I definitely, like I said, I definitely see ways that it can help a creator of any kind do different aspects within their business.
Mm. Definitely. I think what's bugging people is that there are people out there, especially in this industry, that are just in this industry to make quick money. I mean, we're
Yep.
all in this industry to make a living, but there
Right.
are people in the industry to make quick money. And I would say that I would argue that it's impossible to make quick money in this business. But what they're doing is they are trying to create a book with as little effort as possible,
Hmm.
as cheaply as possible, and earn as much money as possible. We know that doesn't work, but they don't
Right.
know that. They watch YouTube videos where it says you can publish a notebook and earn £10,000 a month. So that's what they're doing. They're thinking there's a way to game the system. They think that there's a way to make big money, and there's software to help them do it. And we know that's not the case. But
Hmm.
as long as there are people who are kind of giving that impression that that's a thing, that is something that you can do, there will be people that are trying. And
Right.
I think that's where the problem is, because Amazon doesn't even ask us to declare if we have AI assisting us, because they make
Right.
it quite clear. If we use AI to assist us with our work, we don't even have to say anything.
No, you just say no for everything. Yep.
Exactly. But it's the AI generated, the easy way out that I call it. That's what Amazon want to know about, because
Right.
that is where the quality lies. That is where,
Exactly.
where it could be very low quality, it could be high quality, but at least they have a way to see how that was created. Could that be the reason for low quality? That kind of thing. That's what
Hmm.
I think Amazon are doing. And I think it's important to then say, if you have created the whole thing with AI, you have to say so. Doesn't mean it's not going to go through. It
Right.
just means that Amazon can then see if there's a problem later on. Maybe this is the problem, or they can use it for their statistics or whatever they want to use it for. But it's important to have that. And you're always going to get the kind of people that try and game the system, whether it's with
Yep.
AI or with other,
Exactly.
in other ways.
Yeah.
So
And
we're
yeah,
not,
and that's why I was saying it's not an AI problem, it's a person
no,
problem.
That's exactly right. But I can understand why there are people who absolutely hate AI and they won't buy
Absolutely.
anything that is AI generated. I can understand it. I don't agree with it because I think it has its uses and it can be a very creative way to generate something if you do it the right way. But I can see why they think it's stolen artwork and all this because
Hmm.
the way they think it works, it would be. I would be against
Right.
it as well. But if you know how it really works, then you know that's not the case. And all this about you can't copyright AI work, that's a whole other thing because you have to look at it almost as if it's in the public domain.
Right.
It's not copyrighted, it's in the public domain at the
Right.
moment. That's how I think of it. But you can still use it. It's just you have to be very careful if anybody is creating, especially images on with AI. You do have to be careful that it's not similar to something that is
Right.
trademarked or copyrighted. That
Yeah.
is the thing.
And the biggest fear I have when it comes to, I don't want to say fear, biggest caution I would
Mm,
give when it comes to images is, especially if you hire someone to do your cover or whatever,
absolutely. Yeah.
you you don't you really need to find out from them
Yeah.
if it was AI generated or if it was something they created.
Yeah.
And however you do that, whether it's, I would suggest through an email or whatever, through whatever system, make sure that you keep a copy of that. So
Yeah.
that way, if later on down the road, Amazon comes back and says, or whoever comes back
Yeah.
and says that there's, that there's a discrepancy, that,
Yeah.
that it was stolen, whatever,
Yeah.
then you have some kind of track record that you can go back to and kind of cover your backside. And that goes beyond AI. I mean, I would
Yeah.
say that about even before AI,
Yeah.
because you don't know if someone just stole that image from somewhere else or whatever. And so again, you can only answer based on what you have a knowledge of,
Yeah.
but make sure that you have the documentation where that knowledge came from.
Yeah.
So I bought it from, Deposit Photos, and this is what it said, that kind of thing. Or
Yeah.
I hired so and so on Fiverr to do my image, to do my cover. And, here's the documentation that they said, and again, it could just be within the platform where they said that it's not, that they can created it themselves. And so at least you've got some, as much documentation as you can have if you're not the one that created it yourself.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point. I think especially now with AI, it's really important to cover yourself legally. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I can't give any advice, but if I were to have an illustrator or somebody else design something for me, I would definitely get it get it done into a contract or something to say that
Mhm.
it's unique, it's not copied, it's not AI generated, if that's what you want to avoid as well, and have that all in writing, like you said, because that is so important. If you then have to defend yourself, with Amazon or whoever, that is the only thing you will have then to prove anything, to prove that it's original work. This is, I mean, like you said as well, it's way before AI that this
Right,
happened.
right,
You know, Amazon want unique artwork, unique things on their site, and if an artist copied somebody, or if an artist, even worse, stole somebody else's image and then sort of sold it as his own, that's not AI, but it's
right.
the same thing. It's the same problem that we have. We have to be very careful where we get our images from,
Right.
and that has to be. We kind of need to be able to prove that it's unique, that it's
Right.
an original, and everything that goes with it. But like you said as well, it's something that precedes AI. It's not
Yeah. I
something that's
mean,
suddenly.
a, a couple years ago, it was all about those free image sites, like
Yes.
Pixabay and places
Yeah.
like that, where KDP came down hard and they're like, all right, we're
Yeah.
not accepting any more of these. I mean, and I personally, I had one or two books that ended up getting flagged because I had one character that came from Pixabay because I did it for a YouTube video, and the whole point is how you can create, because I got tired of people saying I can't publish a book because I don't have a lot of money. And so I was showing how you can get images and do it that way. So I had to actually go back and show that, that yes, it was a free image, but the way I was using it was not, it's not like it was just my cover just had this image on it. There were other things and how it was used differently. So yeah, this was long before, and I always want to say it's long before AI became public, because it's not long before AI, because AI has been around for years, but I mean, well over a decade. But as far as, long before it came to the forefront. And so, yeah, and like I said, they're just like back then, there's going to be people who try to manipulate the system, and that you get that in any industry. It's not just in books, but and I think everybody probably knows at least one person in their life that they've met or know personally that is that kind of person, to kind of try to find the easy way out, try to find the get rich quick schemes kind of thing. And so it really comes down to, again, just as people who are trying to build our own business in self-publishing, I choose to not waste my time, energy, and efforts on worrying about people like that.
Absolutely.
Do I acknowledge that, yes, they're going to be that it's possible they're going to be putting more and more hot garbage on the marketplace, making it harder for my books to be seen? Yes and no. If I'm in a very broad niche, then yes, it's going to be harder for my books to be seen. But if I niche down like I do, and it doesn't take long for good books to rise to the top, and to be, does that mean you may have to run ads to get your book visible if you are in a more competitive niche? Yeah, you may have to do that. But again, getting those reviews, those good reviews, because you've got good content, it's not going to take long. You don't have to run ads forever. If you've got good books out there, I've yet to have a book where I've had to run ads to it for the entirety of its lifespan. I might do them when they first start out, so I get the boost from Amazon. But after a while, especially after you start getting those reviews and the social proof, then it doesn't take long to where I don't have to run ads to them anymore, and they sell on their own. And so regardless of how much hot garbage gets put into that niche, mine is always going to show up on the top few on the first page for that niche when people are searching for it. The people that want to find my book are going to find it, and these other ones, they don't get a lot of sales. They're going to get negative reviews. They're going to be in ranked 10 million in BSR really quick, and I don't think they're going to be as much of a hassle, and I don't think that they're going to be affecting our bottom line as much as people are afraid.
Absolutely.
In the long run.
Yeah. I totally agree with that as well. And I always say, I don't worry about what other people do. I worry about what I'm doing.
You can't control it.
Exactly. And also, I don't like to judge people either. I think there are people out there who are in this business to make quick money, and I don't blame them, because we don't know their circumstances. They might need, we don't know. I don't judge people for anything. And I think that things sort of resolve themselves naturally.
Right.
Those people, if they don't learn that you have to put a lot of effort into it, they will fall off and then find something else. This isn't for them, And the ones that I'm sure there are people who came in with that reason of making money quickly, and then they probably saw, it's not going to happen quickly, but I'm going to stick with it because I think it's a good way to go forward, or because they suddenly enjoy doing it, or
right.
There's so many different people on this planet, and we all have different experiences and different ways of doing things. let's not worry about them. Let's worry about what we do, because that is what we should focus on. And as soon as you focus on what somebody else is doing, unless you're using it as inspiration, that's different. But if you're focusing on other people's problems and what they're doing wrong, it's taking all your energy from what you are doing right, and what
Right.
you can't be consistent if you're worried about somebody else. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't really get too worried about it. I try and use AI to help me in my business, and I concentrate on what I'm doing, and I produce books in the best way that I can produce them, and that's all I worry about.
Right.
And I think that AI, talking about the topic of this episode, AI in self-publishing can be very helpful. That's my opinion. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think when used properly, just like with anything in life, when used properly and used in
yeah,
moderation, I think that AI can be very beneficial in our self-publishing businesses,
yeah,
if you choose to use it. And again, if you don't, then that's
it's fine.
completely up to you. And
Yeah,
and I have the utmost respect for whatever you decide, as long as you decide to use it or not use it responsibly. You know,
absolutely.
um, and so I think there's it's definitely going it's not going away. It's
Mm.
going to continue to grow in both ability as well as in popularity. But I also think, and like I said, KDP's already shown it. I think the industry is going to um, and the platforms are going to find ways to work with it and around it. And
Yeah,
so it's actually I'm excited for the future of self-publishing. I don't think it's going anywhere. I'm not, like I said, I'm not too concerned. The biggest concern are, like I said, that the people aspect of it. And like I said, I'm not even too concerned about that. I've got way more stuff to worry about with my business than to worry about things I can't control. I can
exactly.
only control the content that I put out, and my customers, and my future customers that haven't found me yet. That's what they care about. They're not going to
Yeah,
care about stuff I can't control. So
yeah,
why waste my time, energy, and effort on it?
yeah. Couldn't agree more. And I think that in time, it will be regulated in some way.
Right.
I think at the moment I think it's evolved so quickly and so fast. It's almost like caught us like a rabbit in
Yeah.
the headlights. And a lot of things are unexplored yet. And I think in time it will be regulated in some way, and the rules of what we can and can't do will be a little bit clearer.
Hmm.
But it's exciting at the same time. I mean, I'm really worried about other things, but it's
Yeah.
also exciting. So you've got the two things that come together at one point, and let's hope for the best.
Yeah.
So
It actually
yeah,
reminds me quite a bit about low content, no content books.
yes,
A few years back, low content, no content books, nobody even said that phrase. And then all of a sudden it just, really, really hit big. And then, next thing you know, you've got platforms that won't do that kind of books, and then you've got other platforms that are okay with it.
yeah.
And like you said, they may not necessarily be regulated yet, but the platforms are adjusting. And I see this being the exact same
It's
thing.
the same thing, and people are very anti AI as well. But how anti were they about low content or no
Right.
content books? If you remember the community in KDP, Amazon KDP, when I first started, if anybody asked a question that was related to low content, the hate people used to
Yes,
get in that
absolutely.
group,
Yeah.
it was absolutely something. I haven't been back since, because it was just horrible to
Yeah.
see how narrow-minded people were about it. And the same thing is happening with AI. I can understand there's more to AI and why people are
Absolutely.
worried about it, of course. But at the same time, it's not something that we can put. The genie's come out of the bottle. We can't put it back in again. It's out now. It's something that's going to stay, and we might as well work with it and steer it in the right directions, because there's nothing else we can do.
Right,
It is
right.
what
And
it
so,
is.
yeah. And if you're one of those people who decide that you're never going to use AI, that's completely fine.
Yeah,
You can still learn from it. You can, if you see, we talk in numerous episodes how, you can use reviews to help you make a better book. If there's a book that you clearly can tell that the cover is AI, or you can tell that the whatever is AI, then look at those reviews. Look and look at that particular book in particular and see what are people liking about that. What are they not liking about it? And I say that whether it's AI generated or not, but specifically since this episode is about AI, if you decide you don't want to use AI, you can still learn what people like or don't like about a book that was created through AI.
And I think what people have to be careful about is also not to be too judgmental, because I've seen many cases where people have said, this is clearly AI generated, it's a lot of rubbish, and it turned out it wasn't. In fact, there's software that supposedly detects AI generated text, and they actually ran it through a Bible, and it said that it was written by AI. So obviously that software has its faults as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it is AI anyway. Even the software, it might be. So, and the other thing I saw was a painting on Facebook, and everybody was really slating it, saying that it was AI. It's taking away from real art and all that. And actually, it was by a quite famous artist that could prove that it was not AI. It was actually, was it oil and something else? Anyway, it was, I think people sometimes rush to conclusions too much. I think you need to be really careful before you make an accusation like that, because that can hurt artists just as much as being against AI. So
that can ruin reputations right there.
Absolutely.
And I agree that it's, I guess what it really comes down to is something that you had said earlier, which is like, you just, I don't spend my energy on that negativity. Just focusing on your business, decide whether you want to, use AI or not, or just dabble in it if you're still open to it. Whatever you decide to do is fine. It's completely up to you. Again, just if you do decide to use it, make sure that you use it responsibly. And if you're using it to generate, make sure that you specify that.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That's what it's all about.
Well, this has been another great Mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's Mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast, and maybe even leave us a review and let us know what you thought. Until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Colby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.